So do grab the seats. We are about to begin immediately. We are not going to give you any academic quarter over because the 2024 was so generous year that it has given us ample ammunition for the teams and the panelists to discuss some multiple topics. I am going to invite 4 people to the stage in a minute, but before I do that, something to kind of stir a little bit controversy in the very beginning. So these 4 people, they were told that they can represent themselves and the institutions that are organizing this event. So Estonian Founders Society, Estonian Business Angel Network, and this very, very long and lengthy name of EstVCA, basically, venture capitalists and private equity. And then there is Enterprise Estonia. But the 4 people weren't told is that I am the moderator. So I divided them into 2 teams, and I didn't tell them into which teams I divided them. So one of the team is titled Overachievers. So nobody likes overachievers, as you know, right? So, and the second team is titled Team Happy. Now, nobody knows why I named those teams the way I did, but if you want, I can give you some hints. Nobody wants. Okay, so I will tell you that's after the money. You want some hints? Yes. Okay, so, team overachievers. Well, one of them, despite deciding that being an investor in Estonia isn't the best title or job that you can have, still decided that he wants to run around like crazy. So, and he does like ultra crazy stuff. The other one looked at EU legislation and looked, ooh, shiny. I want to dive in. Like EU legislation, like the entirety of it. So basically, now the other person has mastered it. Moving on to the other team, from there, one of them decided that, investment landscape, boring, like everyday job. I want to dabble in tourism as well a little bit. And the second of them, well, that's actually weird, because that person decided to put a man to do a woman's job. And despite of that they both have made such grave, erroneous decisions in life, they are always happy. I have never seen them worried. So therefore, there are like 2 happy people in Team Happy, and there are 2 people who are basically ultra performers, or overachievers, as I like to call them. And without further ado, let me invite to the stage Hedi from Estonian Founders Society. Then we have, let's try to go in alphabetical order, Joonas from Enterprise Estonia. We have Kaari from EstVCA. And we have Lauri, last but not least, from EstBAN. So, purely technical, if you don't know where the bathrooms are, they are there. The Wi-Fi is free, the coffee and the tea and the water are on our expense, and those are back there. If you want something from the bar, that's on your expense, and that's there. We are going to go roughly 1 hour, 15 minutes. You can ask questions. If you go full Estonian again on me, and you don't ask any questions, then I did what any self-respectable tech sector person does these days. It went into the AI model and asked, give me an alphabetical list, each word starting with 1 letter, about the startup investment and tech landscape in 2024. So I have like 36 questions, each with a different letter. So we might take some of those if you are not asking any questions, but I do encourage you to ask questions. Since this will go into the recording, because the institutions are anyway recording it, so we decided that we will be recording it as well. So anything that you will say can be used and will be used against you. But also from the people asking questions, it means that there will be 2 chief microphone officers, which is the new title of CMO, anno 2025, CMO, Chief Microphone Officer. They will bring you the mic, and you can ask it into the mic. And that's how we are going to roll. I see at least 1 person nodding, but I knew that she's smart. So the rest of them, will get you on board along the way. So let's get some of the obvious stuff out and the elephant from the room away, because the title is the annual Fireside Chat. So how was 2024 for you and for your institution? And if you have actually your own business, then you can involve your own business as well. So let's start with Kaari.
I'm actually really curious which team I belong to, but I didn't recognize any of them.
All right.
Myself. But yes, EstVCA and this Estonian venture capital and private equity situation in 2024, we can look at it from two perspectives. One is the funds raised by the funds themselves, and then the funds invested by them. When it comes to fundraise in 2024, it was actually a rather successful year for the venture capital scene. So we had 3 funds announced last year. It was Plural with 400 million euro fund, Nordic Ninja with 200 million euro fund, and 2C Ventures with 50 million euro fund, which means that the Estonian venture capital scene and that our fund's capitalization is the best it has ever been. And it also means that we have roughly billion euros in dry powder sitting on our, well, not on our bank accounts, but available for investments. What we also saw that our funds got much more international and expanding their scope. So we have several pan-European funds already. We had funds that opened their offices in London, Berlin, Stockholm. So that is a very good development for the whole venture ecosystem altogether. We also saw when it comes to the investments that they made into the local ecosystem and into the Estonian ecosystem, I checked the statistics. Estonian funds have increased their commitment to the local market 3-fold since 2019. So last year, roughly 70 million euros were invested by only Estonian funds to Estonian ecosystem. And that is also because we're seeing much more growth capital emerging in this market, mainly from Plural and Nordic Ninja. So we are able to support our companies in the more mature stages. But in general, it wasn't that easy also for the fund managers. It has been tough for them to fundraise as well. And from the sort of LP perspective, also the capital is more conservative, and we see across Europe that they prefer to invest maybe into more well-known brands and funds, and emerging fund managers took the hit a little bit. And we also see funds that are now getting into the end of their life cycle and also into their third generations, or like raising their third funds in this and the next couple of years. So in that sense, it's a very interesting inflection point for the whole ecosystem.
All right, I have about 5 follow-up questions already, but I can't ask any of them yet, so I tried to remember at least 2 of them. Let's continue with Hedi.
So very nice to meet you all. I'm Hedi. I'm the board member of Estonian Founders Society and also a co-founder and CEO of InsurTech called Cachet. So I start from kind of talking a bit about how we did and how the Startup Founders Society did during 2024. So all in all, as an organization, I would say we had a great year. We got very, very many new members. So now the number of members is 241 analysts in the room. Maybe some has joined in the last days, but basically that's the last number I have. We are bringing in, if the total revenue of around 2,000 from the 2,000 companies as a startups in Estonia, we bring in more than 67% of the revenues, and we employ around a bit more than 50% of the staff. So if we take other statistics, the overall, we have, the team that are belonging to our organization is doing generally better than the other average. If we look into the overall sector a bit, and I'm sure there might be some different, more precise and more different statistics out there as well, as we know that there is, I'm quoting our president's Alla Martinson numbers as well, what we have been calculating together. So we had around 5.5 billion as a consolidated revenue, which is a much smaller growth compared to last year. So there is some negative things to bring out from there as well. And if we look into the overall taxes, it's a ballpark of 440 million. So it's not a small industry anymore, obviously. But if we look into the kind of relative growth, I think there will be quite a steep kind of slowdown. This is something that is noticeable. And if we look also, the kind of overall funding that was raised is much lower out there as it is. So, but I'm sure we'll dig deeper to that one going further. And 2 words from Cachet. So I would say that we had a very good year last year. So we grew and we also scaled a lot. And I think this is something we are probably the most proud of. So we literally went from being largely Baltic, Poland-based companies to we basically conquered the Nordics. We launched and really took over the markets in Finland and Sweden and now also Norway in the end of the year, and Belgium and many others. So and last but not least, we went live with Bolt Drive in Germany just few days ago. So there are lots of big things that we are a small 20 plus few persons team achieved in a year. So can be very proud.
Congrats. So, moving on, Lauri.
Hello, from my side as well. I'm Lauri. I'm the president of Estonian Business Angel Network, EstBAN. And EstBAN had, I would say, the busiest year to our 11-year history. As most of you know, but maybe there is still someone in this room who doesn't know, that our long-time CEO, Anu Oks, left for maternity leave. And we have a new CEO, Karin, who is also here. Karin, show yourself. Hello, yes. So if you have any kind of cooperation ideas that you want to discuss with EstBAN, Karin is your first contact point. But the highlight of our year was EstBAN Congress that we had in Tallinn. So EestBAN is European Business Angel Network. First time that the Congress was held in Baltic states, and this just happened to be the largest EestBAN Congress to date. We had, in the beginning, we planned like 600 people. We sold all those tickets, then we released 50 more. We sold those, so the room was packed. And luckily, we had very good weather outside, so some people could stay outside during the event, so we managed to fit. Also, EstBAN was selected in the EestBAN Congress as the most successful BAN or Business Angel Network in Europe in 2023. There are certain criteria how this is evaluated, and according to this criteria, we were the best or kind of the most successful Business Angel Network year prior. So I hope that we can continue with providing these services and our we can continue being as good as we have been. Obviously, this is mostly due to our angels who invested in different startups, and whereas we will come to this, but whereas the kind of angel investment sizes have decreased in the last couple of years, they probably have decreased more in other parts of Europe than in Estonia. We also made couple of syndicate investments. We have traditionally syndicates that we put together in Startup Day, in Latitude. We made those, the winners were YesGrid in Startup Day and Caltech in Latitude. If there is any interest, we still are collecting indications for the Startup Day syndicate this year, so let us know if you are interested. So in general, I would say that we had a great year. Since you asked about personal business as well, I'm also the founder and the head expert in DigiWise, digitalization consulting. We also had the best year of our history yet, partly due to the kind of digitalization boom and artificial intelligence boom that we have right now. But I will stop here and then we can continue with this later.
I need to ask now a follow-up question regarding the last point from you, like digitalization in 2025, and I understand it's a personal success story for your company. Is it like a really, really sad story for Estonia that we are still kind of in the digitalization business?
I would say, so the kind of general level of the state is very good. General level of the private sector is really low. So bad kind of news for the country, but good news for DigiWise, right? Also, there is actually a very good time at this moment to kind of put your effort into digitalization and applying AI. Because I guess many of you know this saying that about AI, that garbage in, garbage out. Have you heard about this? Yes? Well, this saying does not hold anymore. With a kind of advancement of the large language models, you can actually build your solution using AI that has quite low quality data going in, but with the help of AI, and it actually can put quite good results. So this creates opportunities for kind of existing companies as well as startups. So if you want to know how startups can kind of take use of this tremendous thing called AI, then we can have this chat also later on.
I will not ask whether it works the other way around as well, the quality in, garbage out, but let's leave that afterwards. So last but not least, Joonas.
Yes, good evening from my side as well. My name is Joonas Vänto. I'm the head of Estonian Investment Agency, which also belongs under the roof of Enterprise Estonia. Now I'm a little bit confused because you said two person in two teams, but I understand that everybody is doing so great, so I'm the only happy one here.
I see that. Any guesses who are in team happy right now from the audience? Yeah, it's a complex one.
Yeah, but no, we had a great year as well. Of course, you can't chase the records every year. 22 was the record year of our history. 23 was the whole time record of the investments coming into Estonia in the last 30 years. So of course, usually it needs to stabilize after that, and I'm holding my breath. What brings with the fourth quarter of the investment statistics, because the first three ones were not that good. But we will see what the jump could be quite tactical there in the quarter. So let's see what's the fourth quarter bringing us in. But from our portfolio and our outcome, we were still finishing our success stories and statistics. But if we managed to get great positive decisions in the last 2 years, almost record-wise, then the 24th was around 250 million. But if we look into the whole Estonian statistics, it's quite a jump if we compare our records and then the statistics from the whole Estonian ones. Of course, probably everybody heard and read about Ericsson. Really bad decision, not a good news as well. My gut feeling is that it's not the final one, and of course we're putting the efforts in to understand what's behind the decision, and then hopefully it's not the last one, and then we can turn it around as well. But from the overachieving topics, and also that our government right now is really open to actually boost and then build the competitive edge of the nation amongst the other countries, then the big investment scheme, which is being decided in the last year, but also opening this year, the budget is 160 million. And I hope that in the last quarter or in the first part of the year, nobody will remember the news of the investments what were postponed or cancelled in the last year. So we have quite a lot of over 100 million investment potential projects in our pipeline, and then also there are quite some projects in Estonian capitalized companies as well. So I'm having good hopes that there will be good and big investments coming out of the shade quite quickly. And also one thing what is being changed a little bit is that when we have been Estonian investment agency, so we're dealing with foreign direct investments coming into Estonia. So now the ask for us and for the Enterprise Estonia from the ministry and government is that we help Estonian companies as well to boost investments and also to help raise money as well. So maybe we're changing a little bit from the foreign direct investment agency to the investment agency, more to say. But yeah, I'm having good hopes and good dreams for this year too.
All right, so I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, so I'm Vaido, also from the same institution as Joonas, actually, Enterprise Estonia, head of Startup Estonia. And I was checking the slide behind me because whether the title was Estonian Startup Ecosystem. Because what I'm seeing, it seems that I'm living in a different ecosystem. So, or at least the media has like a really, really distorted picture. And because basically every quantitative measure is going downwards, except one which is going upwards, and that comes from Allan Martinson. Basically, the death rate of startups is going up really quickly. So let's do a quick poll. Those who think that Estonian startup ecosystem is in a very good place, thumbs up. Couple of thumbs, panelists, one, okay. So who think that it's in a bad place, ancient Roman style, thumbs down. Even the people in the balcony don't dare to vote. I know there were some government officials and agents in the room. You don't need to be scared of them. That's still fine. But Kaari, I remember that there was like 1.5 billion dry powder available. Now you said 1 billion, so 500 million has vaporized somewhere. And definitely it hasn't gone into the Estonian companies.
I think that the 1.5 billion came from the Baltic VCA report, which represents all Baltic VCs who have the ability to invest into Estonia.
Okay.
But right now is quoting only Estonian funds.
Okay, and from the Founders Society side, I pretty clearly remember in several cases where Allan has said that, the least startups were established, the most were closed down or shut down. So are we really having such a great year? The number of investments was 5-year low, the last 5-year low. The number of deals was also in decline. So it's like a lot of things are in decline.
Yes, so I can't change those numbers around, unfortunately, but yes, that's true. So according to the statistics that Allan did, around 8% of startups that have been ever founded saw its ending last year. So in Estonia. So the number is big, but also there is a small asterisk as well that there has been also, I think, some cleanups and restructurings on the overall base. So, but nevertheless, there's also quite a big number of startups that hasn't done any tax reporting or anything, so that likely is going to grow as well. However, if we look into the overall last 2 years, if lots of startups have done amazing work in turning themselves into so much more efficient, and many are either in break-even or in close to break-even. So from that point of view, everybody who still survived are in a much better shape and formed from that perspective. But I think there's also maybe one even more worrying number, which is the number of startup birth. And I think this has been now also, even if I remember, so all-time low almost, so it's around 150. Obviously there is maybe some which are not yet in the statistics, but it's close to 100 startups less than in a very good day. So that's definitely something to to look into and worry about, because and if some of the surveys that have been done by various organizations, obviously it is hard to inspire and motivate people to found startups when there's many risks in there. And I think this is something that I'm hoping to have a bit of discussion around here as well.
So, like making an intro into the next topic, that I love to call myself a grumpy optimist. Recent years I'm being mostly grumpy, but I still believe in my heart that I'm an optimist. So, any other optimists in the room? Like, yeah, quite a few. Okay. So, especially in the back rows and a few in the balcony. Great to see. So, the current state of the ecosystem, that startups being closed down, less funds raised. Is this kind of like a normal phase of the evolution that we are going through? Or is it the sign that, like, Estonian economic growth, like 20 quarters ago, we said that, yeah, it can't get worse than that. Let's fast forward 2.5 years, obviously it can. So Joonas also hinted that there might be, as Lauri said, that garbage in, garbage out, Ericsson in, Ericsson out, that some more news coming in from Ericsson. Don't quote me on that. So I don't know what he knows. But has there been a shift? And coming back to this like grumpy and optimist part, we were discussing this with startup committee members, that where we are seeing a somewhat decline in our optimism. That 5 years back, everybody seemed to be more optimistic about our opportunities, about investment decisions, about growth projections. So was that unreasonable optimism, or are we back again being pessimistic Estonians? Because also for the first time ever, and I will stop my monologue very shortly, is we saw that for the founders, fundraising wasn't the #1 concern anymore, based on this Founder Society survey, that now it's actually go-to-market customer acquisition. So fundraising actually took the second place for the first time ever that I remember. So your takes on that, and I will start with Lauri.
Yeah, so you had quite a few questions there, but I tried to address perhaps the ones that I feel are most important. So if you ask whether we, at some point in the past, were at a place where there was irrational exuberance, or however to name it, then definitely. Let's go back to like 2021, and a lot of startups or companies claiming to be startups got funded that perhaps should not have been funded. This is not happening anymore. At EstBAN, the way we kind of measure how much investments do our investors do is that we send out this questionnaire for the EstBAN members out there. You will get this in the next couple of weeks, so beware. And if you don't reply, we will call you at least 3 times. So rather answer it right away. So we don't know the exact numbers. But from the anecdotal evidence, as well as from discussions with other active investors, I would say that 2024 was perhaps the amount of money invested by EstBAN members was the same or a bit lower than year before. And what's important to understand is this is not necessarily a problem, because as an investor, you should always know that your goal is not to invest, but to earn money or at least preserve capital at some sense.
So quick follow-up question, both to you and Kaari. Are investors smarter or more pessimistic, or both?
So I would say that the amount of investments
like
startups...
Like smarter, pessimistic, or both?
So I'll answer this. So the amount of startup raising money that startups raise is a very, in a way, easy KPI to measure, but that's not necessarily the only or the best one to measure. So, for example, for myself as an EstBAN board member and president, that was actually quite good when I saw the investor list of Planet 42. There were some EstBAN members there, but not nearly as many as I see in other startup cap tables. So in a way, the way we see it is that it's good if our members make good decisions and good investments. So I would say that thanks to the Planet 42, Aurora, and other such similar stories, investors have actually got a bit smarter, perhaps a bit more cautious about when they make the investment.
So smarter is the bottom line. Kaari, your take on this one?
Maybe more careful.
Not necessarily smarter.
We'll see. I think early stage investors still take a lot of risks, and there's still, I think, at least 50% drop off at some point. And then what we have to look at right now is the graduation. I think early stage is going rather strong. And we are not in isolation when it comes to the whole of Europe. So we have seen a very similar sort of height at the peak of 2021, and then we have seen like a gradual decline, and right now it's stabilizing. At the same time, we're seeing that there are less companies being founded. So we cannot invest into startups that aren't being founded as well. But I think there's definitely more sort of cautiousness and being more careful. I think it's already, we are past that peak of that, and there is a real hunger to invest. And what we see is that we also, with Super Angel, we invest across Baltics and Nordics. There is so much demand for certain rounds. So when it's really high quality founders coming to the market, building moonshots, there's so much capital out there. We really have to fight for those. And we are talking about valuations in the Nordics that, Estonians will just, our eyes will drop out. But it's just, so there is demand and there is hunger to invest. It's just that we are, the filter is much tighter.
What my brain wants to interpret from this is that there is not enough quality Estonian deal flow. You would invest more
or
if you
that
could.
we are more pessimistic.
Okay, so Hedi, why there isn't good deal flow from Estonia, where the hungry venture capitalists who have like plenty of money available would want to invest?
I don't think there's anything I can say that that will not upset anyone, but I
no, definitely upset people.
No, but realistically, I think it's probably, hopefully also some sort of curve, because if we look what's happening in the world, what are the moods, everywhere people are just being pragmatic in that sense as well. But I would say as well, this is not the only problem that we see in Estonia. Even for us, obviously, we are calculating the numbers even more carefully. But the trend is I would say, broader European level. And if we look into the overall statistics that have been brought out by the end of the year by Atomico and others, Europe itself is falling behind quite a lot if we compare with US. So I wouldn't highlight Estonia as a big standout somewhere that we are much worse. I would say that the bigger structural questions are how to support really this new startups being born, how to help the founders pass the first years of really that the risk that they're taking in that wouldn't hurt them so much. We feel that there is definitely room for improving the overall kind of how's the attitude towards from entrepreneurs in overall Estonia. I kind of feel maybe it has gone a bit better in the last years. There's other things to talk about and pash about, but this is something that I would say we all need to look into each other's eyes, that it's super hard to explain someone that, that why you should start a startup when you constantly get, you need to work 24 hours, you earn no money unless you hopefully make an exit, and you constantly get kind of bashed as well. So the overall mindset and the hunger to start new things, achieve, I think we need to kind of try to find it somewhere and build it up. So this is something for sure. European level, big discussions, and I think this is also what was brought out, one of the top problems of not only fundraising, but for the startups that are slightly larger is the scaling, the complexity of scaling. And this, I was end of the year in one of this bigger panel as well. This is an issue. So there is an amazing digital single market, but if still, this percent of things are simple, then the local complexity jumps in, and you need to, I don't know, I'm from the finance sector, go to Poland, speak Polish to get anywhere with FSA is actually the same in Estonia, and all those kind of things that are many blockers with the smaller teams to scale faster, which are much easier in other countries. There are great initiatives actually out there currently in the European level, so the 28th regime and things like that would simplify lots of this thinking. And to be honest, as a born optimist as well, I have never, and this was confirmed as well, there has never been so much openness in, okay, talk with us, give us advice, let's work together, let's figure out how to boost Europe and how to boost also Estonian kind of economy and innovation. So I would say there is kind of two parts of both, the two ends of both the stick. So there's quite big opportunities. So hopefully we are in the bottom of the whatever curve it is. And
well, there is definitely a lot of complexity. I would even say that there is no arguing that we come from a clusterfuck of crises. So
it's not over, bro.
Yeah, it ain't over, definitely. But wrapping up the quality part, Joonas, you see actually the quality from both sides, because you have to make the value propositions like for Estonia and to get the investors here, and you also see the offers that are coming in from abroad. Do you see the increase of quality there? Do you see that it's harder to sell Estonia? Do you see that in the backdrop of all the different issues that we are facing, the expectations and demands have risen so that we have to be better? Like, how do you see it in your daily work at the moment?
Yeah, I maybe start with that I would like to say about myself that I'm naively optimistic. So it usually have helped me a lot in my life. The economy has been in a decline for years now, and our team needs to sell Estonia that welcome to Estonia, it's the best place to be, and it is. Because if we compare ourselves with other nations, and Estonia has so many good qualities, and other countries in Europe are not doing economically that good as well. So we're in the same ballpark. From the startup scene, we see that, as we have talked about today as well, that not enough founders and not enough startups. We see the same thing. We have lists of different VCs or CVCs or different investors looking into Estonia as well. Of course, not only into Estonia, other countries as well. And the interest is definitely there. There are dry powder, there are money, there are a need and hunger to invest. But we always need more startups and then more companies to actually invest in. I think a good trend is that those kind of investors who have invested into startups, they're moving into the more standard area of companies as well. I think it's like it's like a wave thing. First they're looking into startups, then they're looking already more broader. If another wave of growth of the economy comes, everybody are going more optimistic and then more happy. And of course, the how to actually look about the risks and the appetite for risk, that goes a little bit like growing and a little bit more as well. So as the head of LHV said, I don't know, a couple of months ago, we're going to see a really good growth for Estonian economy in the next 2 years. So buckle up.
That's a really interesting point of view that let's invest into startups. Then they grow up, they become a mature company, and they didn't die, they're still alive. Let's now continue to invest into mature companies. This type of kind of trend or thinking I haven't yet observed. So before we are moving into the go-to-market part and into the wish list part, what we would like to see from the Estonian startups or the investment objects as such. Any questions from the audience that let's activate the chief microphone officers. So if you do have a question, do ask it into the microphone. There is a question from Linda.
how do you inspire more people to start companies? I think that's kind of circulated a lot, so you all see different edges of that. Why do people not fundraise? Why do people not go out? Your friends, people that end up in your organization. So how do we get more?
Hold on to the mic. You can answer it after the panelists have answered as well. So who do you want to answer it, or all of them? Any of them? Okay. Who wants to go first? Nobody inspires. Nobody does any inspiring
I can answer.
activity.
I like to bring my own example. You just find people we need to find more people from the larger organizations who are bored to hell, and just this kind of professional rebels. Bring them out, inspire them, and maybe give them a bit of a courage. I think this would be something to maybe we should look into.
Good. Demographic trend in Estonia is negative, as we all know, so we have to find the existing people who are bored to hell. Great advice. Anybody else want to chip in?
I don't know if people are uninspired or they are maybe a little bit tentative right now. I was just in Tehnopol this morning and I spoke to quite a lot of entrepreneurs. There are a lot of ideas being cooked up and people working on things, but just to make the switch to quit the job and become full-time. And normally we say that let's talk when the founding team is full-time. I've never received that many questions but how can we afford being full-time if there is no security? And then investors from the flip side say yes, but we take the risk. We want you to take the risk. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. So I feel that there are still this entrepreneurial spirit amongst the youth. We have also the Gen Z club now being founded and the young generation coming and emerging. And we still have these operators in the startups that are thinking. And the good examples are still here. We're still, there are a lot of thoughts simmering, is Bolt gonna IPO, and always these inflection points bring positivity into the ecosystem. So I feel that there is inspiration out there, but they are still a little bit cautious, and rightly so. I mean, the taxes are going up, the inflation is going up, there's a war, so people have families. Maybe people feel that they need a little bit of stability right now.
All right. Since there were no rules. Okay, Joonas, you wanted to add?
Yeah, maybe one idea which I heard, and I'm not the author of it, but founders should found fast, but also close up fast as well if we already see, or the founder sees that it's not going that well. So it could take another good idea to actually build up again, because usually the founders know how to build up, but maybe they're more a little bit too sticked with the startup. And I think another one from the perspective of attracting startups with the nation, because everybody knows that I think the world knows that the ecosystem is one of the best in the world. How we can actually attract more foreign startups coming here, because Estonian economy will benefit from it as well.
Okay, before going to Lauri, we had actually chat with Sander a month ago in Narva, and he said that, close down fast in Estonia is nearly impossible. Closing down a company in Estonia is a nightmare. So perhaps this is something that we should look into. So, yes. Lauri.
Yes, but this is technical, which takes a lot of effort. But I would say that the ecosystem here for the kind of starting founders is really good. So there we have entrepreneurship programs at high schools. We have support organizations such as science parks, and also like municipalities have those organizations that help startups. Perhaps most importantly, there's no bad stigma about founders who fail. So I would say that this part is pretty good in Estonia.
All right. How do you inspire, Linda? Because there's no rule that I can't extend the panel. So Linda from Karma Ventures is now an official panelist. So
no, I was looking for good ideas, in all fairness, and I think I got some. But my maybe question that I'm pondering myself is that we have a lot of experience in big companies, people who are brilliant, who have, network and ideas and etc., but for some reason aren't taking the leap. These are people who are the most likely to be founders, in all fairness, because if you don't have money, you don't have money, and I don't think that the government should kind of endlessly fund that. So I guess if you have answers to that, that's kind of great, but this is kind of where my thinking is at. The Bolts, even the bigger companies that have offices here, like Ericsson or others that are coming here as well, how do we get these people to go out with their ideas? Because I'm sure that there are some. This is kind of coming from the panel as well. We have a lot of great people with ideas. So, yeah, that's my question.
Me and Joonas, we're from the government. We don't have money, except when we do, but mostly we don't.
You found 100 million today, right? Like there was news this morning that 100 million was found from the budget.
Yeah, but probably it disappears by Friday. So, but a follow-up question both to Linda and Kaari actually is that, are you seeing the founders asking the right questions? Do you get the questions from the founders that you want to get? And if not, what type of questions do you want to get?
Just to quickly go before Kaari goes, but I think that the fact that the go-to-market is the first problem is actually a really good sign. The fact that they're realizing that the problem isn't anymore to get money, but what do I do with it? How do I actually deploy it? So I would say that they are, and I'm having really good conversation with early stage founders. They're trying to find solutions. I think that what we are seeing is that Estonia doesn't really have that much sales marketing talent historically. We haven't had too many companies who have been successful internationally in scaling those companies. They've always been hired abroad. So how do we find people that can support them in these early stage struggles? Also people from finance or helping them with different ways of initial funding, etc. So I'd say those more commercial side questions, exactly the right ones. So I think us as an ecosystem and the people on the stage as well, how do we help them? How do we come together more as a community to support each other through this difficult period so that the companies can survive and prosper?
So, Kaari, were the founders in the morning? I heard that you had a queue of them actually standing in line for your time. Were they asking the good questions?
They were, and I think it's, at least it has been my, motivation or passion as well to be closer to founders, to be much more approachable, for them to be able to ask the questions, and we were just discussing it today. Normally, VCs ask all about the team and the market and the product. We also should have the conversation about, do we understand VC path similarly? And is there an understanding what it means? Because VC is such a predominant capital source in Estonia, which isn't actually the case in other ecosystem, and it feels very natural to come and ask for venture capital money. There are also other ways to fund your business, and there are also ways to bootstrap longer. So I think founders should always ask, is this really the path that I want to go through? Do I understand what it means? And do we understand it similarly with the investor that we're proceeding with? And the other thing I think founders can ask more is that what is a bigger problem that I can solve? What is the biggest problem out there right now and how can I solve it? So take a very fundamental issue and address it and build a solution for it in Estonia. So to build more moonshots.
All right. I'll extend this one, Lauri, to you as well, that are the founders asking the right questions because you are investing into them? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we don't need to ask follow-up questions.
There are a few comments, at least 2 or 3 of them, so please.
Do we have questions or comments? If they are comments, then they need to be, rather precise.
Actually, question, if I may. Thank you very much for such a very enthusiastic presentation of status quo of our ecosystem. I'm Tiit Elenorm, and I would like to invest more to deep tech, including medical technology, maybe even in defense technology. But I feel that at present, as EstBAN member, I feel that we have many, let's say, platform economy, software-based startups which really don't have any protected intellectual property. If we want to move more towards deep tech, should we change anything in our startup ecosystem? Thank you.
Well, we had entire 1 hour slot prepared for this particular discussion. So the old guard versus the newcomers, the fintech, the SaaS, and versus defense tech, deep tech, AI. Like, what's your view on this one? But let's try to answer this question in this context. Who wants to go first? Kaari, you're a deep tech fund.
I think historically there has been a lot of success because we've had early success stories. There has been a flywheel of expertise and capital, and the next subsequent software companies have been able to learn from the previous ones. And scaling software in that sense is similar. When you start scaling deep tech companies that often have a hardware component, it's a totally different case. And I feel today that we still don't have this pool of experts inside of Estonia that could help the next generation of deep tech startups. So it's still the same very issue, which is commercialization. And I think here we just might have to rely maybe on foreign experts then, or bring it more internally or into Estonia from outside of Estonian market. But if you look at the deep tech situation in Europe as a whole, there haven't been too many success stories last year, quite the contrary. So it's a little bit of a again, unstable environment, I feel, where some very, like Northvolt, very successful or at least mature deep tech companies haven't been able to make it until the end. And I think it has sort of a very, very important questions have emerged. How do Europe as a whole support deep tech companies? But I think for starters in Estonia, I think we have technical talent, and we've always had it. We have startup visa. We can hire these people. I encourage founders to look across Europe or even wider for commercial talent, because I don't think we have them here yet.
Well, at least with Northvolt, we have now a comparable failure story to Theranos or something. So, that's a positive.
Yes.
Hedi, any in-house IP for Gadget, or how do you see this IP issue, and maybe on a broader term as well?
With IP, it's always a question how much you want to reveal and how deep you have things deep that you don't, I think these are the questions that we are, discussing also in-house. But if we talk about broader and obviously the kind of fintech versus the new kids on the block, I don't think, and I think Kaari basically answered half of what I was about to say as well. It shouldn't be either or. End of the day, because Estonia has a super competence in the fintech and also other platform side. So I think let's try to help them to go deeper, because if we look what's happening in Europe, we shouldn't run only after what others are doing, but there's lots of strength that are in here. These are connected with personal data, how to use that in the services and go much deeper there and use new technologies and new infrastructures to really excel in that. Also in the overall kind of renewable sustainability world, this is something that Europe has still identified. There are lots of strength for them there. So why not go deeper? And if I've been going around, I know less, really I agree, Estonia has lots to do, and that's why I said I agree on your points that we probably need one very good success story that helps to then kind of build ecosystem. And I would say the question is probably more also looking towards the universities, how this collaboration is going, how can we even further kind of enhance that, why are many scientists still leaving Estonia, how to get them back, how to make them do their startups here, because among our members we also have quite interesting startups that are based in UK, but they have Estonian founders, and many others as well. So I'm throwing lots of questions into the air, because I think you can't answer that with one thing. It's great that we all have noticed we need to push this newer kids to grow, but we shouldn't throw I would say the other things under the bus while doing that. And maybe one last just thought. I think it's not always about only money. It's about also, and there was today also shared about the DevTech community, a good article from Sten that if you look what's happening in the US, there's billions put into the DevTech. But the question is how much are the kind of governmental then institutions and organizations buying from them? So these kind of things are something to look into. We can invest, and especially in a smaller country with the smaller wallets everywhere, but we need to help them get growing as well. And I think that pathway, if we think further, maybe we can speed up the one big success story here much faster.
I'll get to Joonas and Lauri later, because one of them was thinking about intellect and the other about property, but I will not tell which one was thinking about which. So, but you said that we have comments from the audience or questions, so there is probably a few more. Yes, there is a guy with a mic and there's a hand up.
Yeah, hi, my name is Kirill from Content Quo. We're a member of Estonian Founders Society. I wanted to go back to the failure stories thing. Lauri, I think you said that we don't seem to have a stigma of failure attached to entrepreneurship here, but I'm very curious how you see the Planet 42 situation maybe affecting that kind of stigma, both for potential founders, but also for potential investors and for business angels.
That's a very good question. What I hope that comes from this Planet 42 is the kind of a learning lesson for many existing investors and wannabe investors. Because what hurts most is that many of the stories of the people who invested in Planet 42 are stories of the people who kind of put all of their life savings into this company. And this is something I really hope will not happen anytime soon in the future. So what I would like to kind of see is that investors talk with each other more. They kind of talk not only with their kind of the voice chamber of people who decided to invest, but like each single investor before making the investment should talk with at least two people who decided not to. Just to understand what are the reasoning. Why did they understand not to invest? Why did they decide not to invest? And the problem is that, you know, you cannot publicly criticize if you find that some company such as Planet 42 or whatever else is like really not a good investment. Because if you do that publicly, well, that's a good way to turn friends into acquaintances. Because many people not only invest financially, but also emotionally. And they will kind of feel hurt, or they will be defending themselves, their investment. So you cannot do that. So to get like adequate feedback of people who did not invest, you just have to talk with them one-on-one. So to kind of put this together, what I hope that comes out of it is that people talk with each other more and also with people who think differently than themselves.
Anybody wants to add on?
I get the investor viewpoint, but what about the future founders? So they've seen that this failure, like it blew up big time on a national level. How do you think they would react? And maybe somebody else wants to add on, to that.
As it seems, the founders of this particular startup have not kind of been dealt very much reputation damage as is. So future is still up there, so we don't know at the moment. But in general, if we see that the founder, for example, I also have had quite a few unsuccessful investments where I have lost quite a bit of money. When I've seen that the founder actually tried, you know, they actually put their best effort, then it's okay. You know, there should not be the stigma that they are bad or should not be doing any new businesses anytime soon. So what should be kind of not tolerated is they didn't try. They really just built this house of cards and they didn't really try.
Hedi, what's your take on from the Founders Society point of view? Do you see that now finally the couple of failures that the Estonian startup ecosystem has seen, have they had a positive influence, negative influence, no influence at all?
I would say that I think there among the founders, and especially founders that have already a bit more mature in their journey, everybody understands, or majority of them understands the risk that things can go wrong. And this is part of startup kind of life. I had one event that I participated when some VCs, not in Estonia, outside Estonia and UK, were talking on a stage who they want to invest in. And at the end of the day, they want to invest in companies that are hugely profitable and are growing really well. And then they put in risk money in. So that's not part of the game here. So that was brought out quite funnily. I don't think this is happening here. But the point of it is that I think all the founders who are really, what you said as well, wanting to do something good, they are super critical about themselves as well, and they are overachievers, they try to push. So every one of those understand that, if you read the news, what has been written, obviously not knowing in details, that, am I like that? What would have been? I think everybody analyzes this, but I haven't seen that hurting the mentality or motivations in a way that people don't want to do that because of that.
All right, we had one more hand. Yep.
Hi, thank you for this insightful discussion. I'm Uwe from Tenity, and we are running a foreign founders program with Beamline and backed by Startup Estonia. So we've now been, selecting companies to come here, different stages, different countries, and we have about a dozen or so quite good teams lined up now out of 50 or so. But what I'm really seeing is that, okay, so we have a kind of a good reputation. We have e-residency, easy to set up a company. But if I think about what Silicon Valley has over that, kind of the ease of doing business, is that it's a mecca for funding. So in that context, do you see that there is a fair chance how Estonia could become a kind of a mecca of at least early stage funding for foreign founders?
For foreign founders? I think in that sense, everybody is equal or has an equal chance for this capital that is right now sort of sitting aside in the funds. So we do have, I think, this force quite a big amount of capital comparative to our population. So early stage funding itself, I think, was around 800 million euros right now. So in that sense, there is plenty of capital, and you could call it an early stage capital mecca. And I think early stage founders have an equal chance to access it. Of course, funds have different strategies. Majority is related to where they are incorporated or where they're from. So there are always these restrictions, but I don't necessarily see any differences if you're an Estonian founder or foreign founder, at least from our perspective of evaluating companies.
I would like to answer back from you, Uwe. Like, in your experience now being in Estonia, how do you see it? And don't be scared of the angry Estonian mob if you say that something bad about Estonia.
I mean, early stage funding fundamentally is a relationships business as well. So trust towards, especially the pre-seed founders, that is a local phenomenon. And how to overcome that? I think it can be overcome by kind of having foreign founders reside here, meeting them, possibly through all sorts of programs, exactly the type that we are putting on. So this is one of the de-risking mechanisms. But other than that, I mean, while foreign founders may be equal when they come and talk to you, then I don't think Estonia necessarily has quite the reputation of, like a French or Spanish founder going like, if I need to get this going, I need to go to Latitude 59 because that's the type of place where early stage founders get funded much better than in my home jurisdiction, so to speak.
I still need to ask a follow-up question on you, because we Estonians, also on the stage here, we have a self-image of being decent, friendly, approachable people. I'm not saying it's the objective image, but at least we have this kind of self-image. So, are we wrong?
This is a very tightly knit community, right? And therefore a little bit hard to penetrate if you just land here, in Tallinn airport and then start looking around. So you need some trainer wheels in the beginning for sure.
Yeah, well, coming back to the negative demographic trend, yes, it might be really, the relationship stuff for us is somewhat an issue, but it's not a topic of this panel. Joonas, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add something, and I understand the question, how to actually build a mecca of funding. And Kaari said that we have quite a plenty of money already, but I understand the question, what's the difference between Silicon Valley is that If you want funding, you'll go there. If you want to build a startup, you also go there. So you need both of those sides to actually grow at the same time, to actually have that ecosystem growing faster and then bigger. So it also goes well hand in hand with my wish for the next year, is a bigger appetite as a nation for taking risks. And that also, the topic goes under it, that how we actually let foreign funds to come here and found a fund. And those funds don't need to actually, and they only can't invest into Estonian startups. They need to like become the mecca of funding in the Nordics. So that's the point. And I'm really glad that Tenity is here, having that hub for the Nordics. So that's like a quality point as well in at least one of the sectors.
Anybody who wants to add something how we can become a mecca or at least retain the status? A couple of years back, you know, if you were asking outside Silicon Valley, what would be the 3 places where you need to go, which would be the startup countries? You got always, you know, Israel, Singapore, Estonia.
In a way, aren't we already? I mean, if you take the population, like per capita, number of funds available in Estonia, number of angel investors, a number of unicorns, whatever measure you take, we are already at the very top of the world. So I would say in that sense, where else there is to go? I mean, everything seems to be good. The ecosystem is good. There are a couple of things, though, that mean that which probably work against us in a way. Well, first of all, the population in general or demographics is so bad. I mean, when I was at school, the population of US was 250 million. So that's what I learned. Now it's 340, right? When we take the same population measure for Estonia, it was 1.5 million, now it's 1.3. So companies need people, companies need founders as well, so this works against us. And also looking at my like very salty boots, I mean, we cannot really have the same weather as in San Francisco, right? So in that sense also, there are some offerings that are better in some other places.
Right. We have Hedi hand from here, so also Sander. Okay, so let's take Sander, and then Hedi is next in the queue, or Hannele, you have also somebody there. Okay, so let's start with Sander. Then there's a guy or girl already with the mic where Hannele is.
Yeah. So Estonia has lots of dry powder, as we understand. Meanwhile, we see that a lot of funds have been, in the recent times, saying that they are starting to go more late stage, saying that their tickets start from 3 million, some say from 1 million, some say something else like around that. But it seems that a lot of funds are going somewhat more late. Meanwhile, at the very earliest of getting the 50K, 100K ticket from accelerators is relatively easy. So the question has always been kind of what to do when you're raising 300, 400,000. And then the question is, depending on what you do, you might have investors. We understood that deep tech maybe not the best yet. We don't have enough knowledge. But what are the industries where you see that we will have the next wave of growth? What is the dry powder waiting for? Is it clean tech? Is it still B2B, even though AI makes it easy to make B2B solutions, or is it something completely different that investors are waiting for now?
Let me very briefly iterate the question, and then we need to start giving very quick answers. So what industries where would you go to, and where would you direct people who want to raise 300 to 400K?
I'll take the first question about where the funds are investing. During 2021 and 2022, a lot of the funds that are later stage came aggressively towards early stage. And that was because they were missing out on opportunities. The round sizes got so big that you couldn't get your ownership unless you come very early. Very early stage companies raised a large amount of funding, so they had to be there earlier. Now, we have seen these funds now retreating back to where they were, and that's normal. When it comes to sort of this 300, 400K round, I feel that in Estonia it's quite well covered. considering that Super Angel has a minimum ticket of 300,000 euros, Specialist, Change Ventures, Trend Ventures, all of them are tackling that sort of gap. So it feels that there, at least here, and in the Nordics as well, there are funds that are entering with a 200, 300K ticket. Although there has been also this move towards bigger check sizes, because what happens outside of the Baltics is that seed rounds have gotten so big. So companies are raising 5 to 10 million euro seed rounds, even despite that we're past this 2021 boom. So you need to have a bigger ticket to be able to accommodate that round size. But when it comes to where the capital is going, then that was one of the points that I wanted to say as well. So if we look at the bigger picture, then what we see is that 11 billion euros last year in Europe were deployed to AI companies and foundational models, and there are a lot of these European VCs are also racing against the US, and they are deploying very large amount of capital towards AI. And where do we see the AI hubs emerging? It's in Paris, it's in the UK, and a lot of the capital has actually been concentrating towards Western Europe as a result of that as well. We, as a smaller ecosystem, have a very versatile ground for deep tech, and then we have fintech and SaaS, etc. So we have a lot of different companies emerging, but we don't have like this one hub of excellence that everybody's right now running towards.
So now I'll start cutting in. Lauri, can with 300 and 400K people come to you and say that can you put together a syndicate this size?
Yes, that's what we are doing. So I mean, for practical purposes, the syndicates we do in Startup Day and Latitude are like 200,000 each. But we have had plenty of occasions where we make two because there's just so much interest that we cannot fit all into one.
Okay. The short answer was yes. Any favorite industries?
So obviously for me at this moment AI, and since you kind of hinted on that previously, I don't consider AI to be deep tech. And mainly for the reason that the kind of product lifecycle management and the market feedback is more similar to the kin of platforms or whatever than like real deep tech such as medicals or chemicals or whatever, like material sciences, etc. So for that sense, AI, and I see from the same measure this as typical ICT startups.
Joonas, industries.
Defense tech, definitely a boom coming up there. The need of those companies and those products is definitely there, as we see from the environment, but also energy tech, and then clean tech. Right?
All right. So next question or comment where Annele was. Yep.
Hi, Raimo Linnavirta from Trend Ventures. You asked about how to make Estonia the venture capital mecca, so I will give you one tool for that. But before that, quick comment on Uwe. So as a Finn entering first the Estonian angel capital, angel investment, and then venture capital ecosystem and the whole startup ecosystem, this has been super welcoming. I mean, for me, it's been easier to access here, enter here, than to get into the Oulu ecosystem. Although in both of the cases, I don't speak the same language, but still. But as for the tool, like running a fund in Estonia is super straightforward, comparing to every other EU country, maybe except for Luxembourg. And if I look at the Finnish funds, about half are located in Finland. Next are domiciled in Luxembourg, Sweden, and more in Estonia. So actually the Estonian running funds here is considered the Delaware of Europe. But one thing that I'm missing, and now challenge to invest Estonia, I'm not seeing you promoting this. You can do better work in this one.
Well noted.
So I think it says something about Estonians when a Finn has to promote an Estonian. So, okay, we'll take it as champions, as they call it in the startup world. But also now, was there a question coming as well? Or why? Okay, good. So, Kadi.
Hi. Does it work? Yeah. Europe got its new leadership very recently, and the big plan is now to redefine European economy and especially European industry to be clean and competitive. It includes a lot of thinking about the single market, the single capital market, a lot of policy renewal coming up. What do you think Estonian position should be on this topic? How can this new legislative system strengthen our startup ecosystem, and also from the perspective of investments? How could you more easily invest into the priority technologies that we have?
I'll comment from one angle. There is many elements on your question, but I also I agree. I recommend everybody to actually read this higher level guidelines document. It's a very, very good document and definitely give good ideas what to focus on EU level. Let's hope it's not going to be killed by bureaucracy, but hope is there. But to answer the question, what Estonia should focus on, when I read through all about the 28th regime, I was thinking like, this is e-residency. Why haven't we taken this and just said, okay, this exists, it's just, and I understand it's hardcore protectionism everywhere, and these are the topics we should talk about. So that's a very clear thing, we're doing that, we have it, and now they are figuring out, every country tries to pull it on their side. So one very straightforward thing. And the other part, I think, also connected with the EU, the EU kind of guidelines and thoughts is like they are very... Every country is looking into how to deregulate the pension funds to bring the money back to Europe, because right now majority of the European pension fund money sits on the US or outside Europe. So things like that, where to really figure out how can we make sure that we are there first in line and make sure that we are not missing out on some of that part. Just a few comments, but...
All right. Does anybody have a burning question?
There are two people.
There are two burning questions. Okay, we can't burn the house down, so let's take two burning questions.
Hello, thank you for this insightful conversation. I have a good question to close this, because to close the startup life cycle or investment life cycle, you need exits. And I think we've been talking about like how to get more startups, how to get more capital, how to grow them. But how do you see the exit landscape developing this year or coming years? Because I've seen that this is one of the biggest problems, to get capital back on the market, to get the money cycle going. And it's both a problem for startups and for funds.
Exit landscape. Lauri wants to start.
Yes, so that's a very good question again. I did have a couple of 0x exits last year. So that's a normal cycle of life, I would say. That's a good question in a way that there hasn't been any like big exits last year or year before that we can kind of point out that, hey, there's another big IPO or unicorn of Estonia. But that's to be expected. We cannot really expect to have like one each year. And there will be some in the future. And this will kind of bring the money back to the ecosystem, both in like investments in new startups, as well as in real estate, and also as members of EstBAN. So this goes in cycles.
So, Kaari, are you happy with the prospect that maybe not an exit every year?
Honestly, so we have been thinking about it quite a lot, but it's... there is not much to do from, especially from an early stage investor perspective, but also later stage. So there's a saying for a reason that good companies are being bought. You can't really force them, and if the exit market has been what it has been, then the least that we can do right now, I think, is not to push for exits. There are, I think, founders, at least in our portfolio, are, especially when they become more mature, they are being targeted. They are holding these conversations already, I think, from Series A onwards. I think that's also how Klaus exited earlier last year. So I think from our point of view, there is not much to do to enforce it.
But let's frame now the newspaper title. You can't force an exit, but... So how can you nudge them or entice the exits?
I think if you push them towards exit when the market is not there, you're potentially losing out on a lot of returns.
So no way how to kind of lure them in.
What I have been thinking about is, what about the companies that have to close down, or they have gotten to a certain point where they're not scaling that much anymore, but they still have a large customer base and they still have IP and a product. So I think we need to develop, and I think that exists in the US, like a network of companies or professionals that purely specialize on taking these companies from that stage and scaling it onwards. So not to have, maybe then we can't push IPOs and major exits, but maybe we can help companies who want to exit at some point or who are not growing anymore to get a strategic buyer that could continue with the company.
So historically, it has been like a family business model that the business was inherited to a next generation. Now it has sped up, so we can't wait while the mom or dad dies and the kids inherit it. Hedi, what's your take on this topic?
It's obviously a hard one, especially Estonia is small. There's very little this kind of big tech industry around that that scouts constantly small technologies to buy in. I think the question is, can we do anything there that our startups that want to do a different round, maybe not the full IPO cycle, are more visible to some of these larger organizations? And I think that's the only thing that I can point out. But I think good ideas have been already listed both ends, that it's dangerous to push them, because again, end of the day, if people have great idea, they want to build it up and really scale it.
So it's a networking session proposal to Joonas' table. So maybe an investment agency should bring in those types of actors. But we had another burning question.
Hello. Hi. Mine is a bit more of a comment rather than a question, that I noticed a great deal of unwarranted idolization and idealization of Silicon Valley, because there it is easily costing 5 times as much to live as it does in Tallinn, so it's easy to go broke before you are ever seen, if it's possible to ever be seen, because you may not fit the ideal standard of what a successful business owner should look like, such as an Ivy League education, rather than the content of the hard work and innovation that was put into it. And as my own testimonial, I'm from the USA and I came here, not Silicon Valley.
Very, very sad story. So we have a Finn and American promoting Estonia. So this leads us to the Santa Claus wish list 2025. The 2024 Santa Claus has just departed recently, not into dev tech or whatever it is that is booming right now, hopefully. So let's start with Joonas. What is your wish list for 2025?
I have 2 of them. One is connected to the red-shirted Finnish guy up in the back. There's an idea, and then the purpose why we haven't advertised the country as come here and find a fund. I think that it's easier to do it when the ecosystem and then the bureaucracy level is that low that you can actually open arms let them in. So that's the one point. But of course, if we're not advertising, that doesn't mean that quite a lot of funds are already in our portfolio or in our pipeline. And I think the next wish for the Santa is that please, Santa, give us quite a lot of 100+ million investments.
All right, we can kind of agree with that, I guess. Lauri?
Yes, apart from the obvious wish for the war to end on favorable terms, I would say that in our kind of industry or sector, would be great to see one good exit this year. Like that would kind of rejuvenate the whole sector here.
All right, one good exit. Hedi?
So there's more than 100 people in this room. So can we agree that every person in this room make sure during this year they will convince at least one person to found a startup? Is it and especially if it's a scientist or someone that really wants to go deep, just help them, stand by them, convince them, lead them to the right people to talk with, ask questions, and I would like to kind of get a memo maybe later on if everybody did that. I don't know, who has the checklist of persons?
I don't know how to now take this, but I will take it very straightforward. I saw TalTech guys there and they were like, oh my God. So, Kaari, your wish list.
Hedi worded it really nicely. As we discussed, I wish there is then this inspiration and motivation out there to go and build the next moonshot. And given that, we feel that there is capital out there, I hope that the founders will feel that, this is the case for them as well, and there's, a good relationship between the founders and the investors of this ecosystem.
All right. So, as a final question from my side, have you guessed who is Team Happy and who is Team Overachievers? Any guesses who is Team Happy? So there is also one wannabe member of Team Happy, so who wants to apply, but from the people from the stage. Any guesses? No? I will not tell then either. I will tell later to Kaari. Okay, Team Happy was Kaari and Joonas. And Team Ultra Performers is Lauri and Hedi. So let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. Before we depart, there is at least one person who should be thanked because this event would not have been happened if there wouldn't have been Merit. So Merit from EstVCA. You can come to the stage because we needed to do a group photo, so Merit does need to come to the stage and we can keep clapping meanwhile. And also, everybody who felt that they were part of organizing this event, please do come join us on the stage for the final picture. For the rest of you, you were a wonderfully quiet audience. I don't know what happened. I haven't seen such a quiet and attentive audience in years. So, great audience, organizing team to the stage. The networking session is open. The bar is open. There is still coffee. There was supposed to be somewhere food as well, unless the balcony people have ate the food. But we'll find out this one. Should we somehow merge? Yeah, more together. Yep. Let's get this table out of the way. Yep.